Hey guys, welcome to Melanie United. And on this video, we're gonna be talking. This video is coming out of Egypt and Kevin Hart. So, as we all know, Kevin Hart is a comedian, one of the best top comedians in the world, if not the top funniest comedian, right? And he's black, so he's one of us. He's from America, and so Kevin Hart, as you know, comedians do skits and they do their comedy acts all over the world, not just in their country, right? They do their tours just like uh, musicians, rappers, hip hop, all those influencers, right? So Kevin Hart's scheduled to go to Egypt in February, I believe. So next month, actually. And this story came out about like 3 weeks ago. I just haven't had time to do it, but yeah, Kevin Hart said that the ancient Egyptians are black, or the Egyptians are black. And, you know, as we always, whenever we tell our true history, our real history, or whenever we talk about black people, African people, and positive light, great life, anything to do with smartness, technology, civilization, advancements, there's always going to be pushbacks by the Europeans for sure. We all know that. But we always keep forgetting to talk about this Arab. And I've done a couple of stories about him recently. And like I said, not all Arabs, because I do have Arab friends too. But I'm saying, just like I say with the European, not all. There's a few good ones. There's some good Europeans, good Arabs. But majority of them are not, because they're trained, they're taught, just as the whole world is trained and taught to hate black people, be anti-black, hate Africans, all that type of stuff, right? So Kevin Hart says that, and you have these plethora of Arabs, bunch of Arabs that just go online, go on Twitter, and try to cancel Kevin Hart. No, don't cancel the show. We don't want him here in Egypt. The ancient Egyptians are Arab and all that. And they got so mad because he told the truth. And like I said, whenever we talk about anything of prominent advancement, technology, sophistication to do with Africans, with black people around the world, there's always going to be pushback, from the European, but also the Arabs, also the Chinese, also, everyone. They're all in cahoots, whether they know it or not. They're all in one team, that, to interfere, to destroy our identity, and to, to try to erase us from history. So, and we talk about the European a lot in this channel, but I've done a couple of videos on the Arabs, but I'm going to start talking about them a lot more, because we don't talk about them clearly enough, about their invasion in Africa. And just like how there's white South Africans in South Africa right now because they've invaded and they're there right now, the same goes with Arabs in North Africa. So I'm going to give them the same energy, because this story here pissed me off. So they want to cancel Kevin Hart for telling the truth. See what I'm saying? It's not just the European that's trying to hide our identity. This Arab too. These are the two worst races that have done the most heinous, and committed the most atrocity crimes against Africans, against black people in world history, and up to this date. So a lot of them know who the ancient Egyptians are, but they continue to go with this lie because they have an agenda. They don't want to leave Egypt. They don't want us to know who we are. They don't want us to be empowered. So a lot of them know. Some of them don't know, because a lot of these demons are telling them, no, 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 no. And this whole world plan to try to take Egypt out of Africa, or take Africa out of Egypt, that's what Egyptology was about. The land was called Khemet before, which meaning the land of the blacks. So the land was called Khemet. But this whole Egyptology idea came years ago, when who owns it is who brought it out, or who created this philosophy, Egyptology thing, was the Rothschilds and stuff, and a bunch of Europeans. But it's basically these Europeans and these Arabs, they basically collude to try to try to prove that, oh no, the ancient Egyptians are not black, no it's not, and all that. And they try to push Egypt more into the Middle East, which is really Northeast Africa, but the Middle East is known to everybody as, well, that's where Arabs are, right? So they try to push it into the Middle East, and they try to just keep it North Africa excluded from Sub-Saharan Africa, which these Europeans created that term not too long ago, racist term, to try to make it seem like because they underdeveloped wherever black people are in Africa. So then they made that line wherever black majority of black people are to call it sub-Saharan, and then they know the Arabs invaded North Africa and the majority of them are there in North Africa. So then, yeah, that's what they try to do. But yeah, like even like they're in cahoots. Like they have scientists. They don't have our independent scientists go there. If there's scientists that goes there, oh, he or she's for sure getting paid, and you know what I mean, and can't say anything, can't be honest. The Europeans, these Arabs, they hide our identity. They take their scientists to go excavate and go take samples and DNA of these mummies that they find and stuff like that. And we know it's African mummies and black people just like us. We know it's our ancestors, but they keep lying. They keep lying. Like that's all they do is lie, lie, lie. That's actually media propaganda war. A lot of us don't even know we're under war right now. They've been warring with us for the longest time, trying to take and strip our identity from us. Like these colonizers, these invaders, these enslavers, they both enslaved us. The Arabs have enslaved us before and even longer than the Europeans, and they're still doing it now in North Africa, specifically Libya and places like that. And like I made a video about it, about how a lot of African women are going to the Middle East, going to the Middle East to do some of these jobs, taking care of jobs and maid and stuff like that, right? Because sometimes a lot of jobs is hard to find. So they go look for jobs, and so they're doing a lot of maid and all that kind of work there in the Middle East and stuff. And I've done a story about how these Arabs forced this one black woman, I don't know if she was Ethiopian, this one, I think Kenyan women to breastfeed dogs, and that's how they treat black people in the Middle East. They're enslaving black people, specifically black women in the Middle East, but also just enslaving black people in the Middle East, making them work for pennies, just exploiting them, making them work overtime for free and all that type of stuff. The exact same behavior that the European has, the Arab has. No difference. In slavery, the European would castrate black men. Guess who did it first? The Arab. The Arab is the one that first started cutting off our genitals. These people are sick, man. And not just that I am Sudanese, you know? So I was actually born in Sudan, and I moved to Egypt when I was a couple months old, and I moved and lived in Egypt until I was 4 before I came here in Canada. So I also experienced the racism in Egypt myself. Like I would see my older brothers fighting Arabs, and these Arabs throwing rocks at me and throwing rocks at my older brother for no reason. So my older brothers would be fighting them and stuff. And that's how that's his behavior too. This is how he behaves towards black people, towards Africans. And he's in Africa right now, and he's like, just like I say about the Netherlands whites, the Afrikaners, the Boers that's in South Africa, how they think it's their home. The Arabs, the same way the Arabs think North Africa is their home. These are people that invaded when they brought Islam into Africa and forced it on the North African, which was Africans just like us, black people. They forced it on the population in North Africa and even in places of East Africa and all those places. They forced that during the 7th, before they even came and invaded. Arabs would come to Egypt, come into North Africa, where we were. Remember, we're the indigenous North Africans. Okay, it's black people. These people are damn liars. Okay, so they'll come into North Africa, trade with us, which is normal. We traded with everyone, right? We traded with everyone, and but then after the 7th, 8th, 9th century and all that, they have came and they brought Islam. Like we already had the European, the Arabs, they just carbon copy and just kind of make a couple of differences for Islam and Christianity. They basically copy us, and then they just kind of change it a bit because we're the ones that originally had all these religions, right? So they bring their own versions of it, okay? 7th, 8th century and beyond, the Arabs come, forced Islam on the native people, the population, Africans, and just start enslaving, and then started ruling Egypt, and that's how they conquered North Africa, and they've never left ever since. And this has been their behavior, and they're not even visitors, they're not guests, they're a bunch of invaders, and we have to deal with this Arab too. Like the European, of course, is number one enemy, but so is this Arab. He's enslaved us before and longer than the European, and his practices and behaviors towards Africans, towards black people, the exact same, if not worse than the European. Just like one of the great Pan African elder that ascended years ago, Dr. Claude, no, not Dr. Claude, Dr. John Henry Clark, like he said, this Arab is in Sudan. He's waging war on African culture. He has no respect. He's as holy as a dog. They have no respect for African culture. That's Arabs have no respect. They pretend, they hide under the umbrella of Islam. Like I said, there's some of them that are good. Like I have friends that are Arabs, but they hide under the umbrella of Islam. Like, hey, yeah, my brother, we're the same. You know what I mean? They manipulate the minds of black people. They manipulate the minds of Africans wherever we are in the world. Black folks, Africans, these just like Christianity, Islam. They manipulate our mind and they use it, and they lull black people to sleep and make us feel like Islam is more important than our skin color, and they try to make us not see race and stuff of that when there's clearly racism in Islam and Christianity. Like they'll be like, no, these are my brothers and all that stuff. But then you go to the mosque, and for the prayers and all that stuff, for the Jumu'ah prayers, then you'll see Arabs don't want to stand beside black people. I've had these stories told to me. I've seen these things. Like, nah, these people, and then you see the way they treat us. They're enslaving us in North Africa and in the Middle East, and you see how they treat us. They beat us and all that stuff. When are we gonna take action back? Nah, this Arab, he's been getting away for too long. He's been getting away for too long. We need to say, if you guys are gonna keep treating us like that, or you're gonna lie about our history, get back to the Middle East, which is really Northeast Africa. Go back over there. Go back there. Go back to Turkey. Go back to Saudi Arabia. Go back to all those countries that you came from when you invaded. And get out of Egypt. You keep trying to take our ancestors' identity, which is you waging war on us. You legit waging war on us. You and the European. When first they tried to say the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, the pharaohs were white. They put it in Hollywood movies and all that to deceive you guys. Then but then some of us were saying no, they're black. So we kept butting heads. Then they changed it from saying white. Then they said, okay, they were Arabs. We're like, no, they're black. No, they're black. So we keep up. But you see how our positions never change, but their positions change from white to Arab. So that's the situation where you see whites and Arabs working together to try everything, every lie they can come up with to try to prove that the ancient Egyptians were not black, the pharaohs weren't black. So first they say they're white, we prove them wrong. Then they say they're Arabs, we prove them wrong. Now they're trying to say, okay, ancient Egypt was a diverse culture. There was whites, there was blacks, there was Arabs. You see how they keep changing like that? That's what they do. These liars. The ancient Egyptians were us. Okay? Some of the Europeans came to study under us. We wouldn't let them near our sacred places. Same as the Arabs until they invaded. See, until they invaded. Until they invaded. That's when all this stuff started changing and all that stuff. These people, I'm telling you, man, like, they they disrespect our culture. They lie about who we are. They're committing acts of war on us. They're heavy. Black people are heavily discriminated in those northern African countries. I can tell you that for a fact, Egypt included. And yeah, nah, like if these Arabs are gonna, and the thing is too, like we're the only race. We're the only race that we can have as much proof that what's called this civilization or this technology advancements of this time was us. When we try to prove something like that is us, how advanced or how not, how our accomplishment and stuff, we're the only ones who can have as much proof and as close proof as most facts as you can have, but they still deny it's us. We know the Greeks invaded Egypt. The Romans invaded Egypt. What did the Greeks? What did the Greeks say? The Greek scholars and all of them, in Herodotus, Plato, all of them, right? They came into ancient Egypt and studied. What did they say? The Egyptians, They're Ethiopians. They're Ethiopian colonists. So the Egyptians, they call the Egyptians the Ethiopians, and if you know the Ethiopian, they call everyone with black face, burnt face, which is just Africans, Ethiopians. So they told you the Egyptians are Ethiopians. They look exactly like Ethiopians, and then also they said Herodotus said the North African, the indigenous people of North Africa were black people, were Ethiopians. So even the people that they put in high regards and say, well, they put Greek civilization in high regards, Roman civilization in high regards. Even though the Romans got everything from the Greeks, and the Greeks told everyone they got everything from the Egyptians, even the gods, all that pantheons, everything, their philosophy, all of that kind of stuff, right? So even when and then they put Plato, Herodotus, all in high regards, right? The father of history, right? And all that. So then, when the father of history and all these philosophers, all these people that went to study in ancient Egypt and told you that the pharaohs and that civilization was black and that whole region, North Africa, was black, and you still find a way to, they still find a way to try to argue and deny it, and even the civilization could be in our own continent, and these demons still deny and argue. That just tells you the agenda that they're trying to do. They want to keep ancient Egypt. That's never going to happen. They're not going to be able to stay there forever. I'm telling you right now. The ancestors, the blood, everything is rising, and we're not going to take it no more. Just leave. You can stay there, but that whole area, North Africa, Egypt, everywhere, has to be controlled by black people. It has to be controlled by Africans because that's our land. I don't want to kick out every Arab, but if it has to come to that point, it may have to come to that point because that's our ancestors' place. That's not your place. The mummies, we know the mummies that you guys eat. You and the Europeans eat those mummies. Those are our ancestors that you guys are eating to try to get more power and more spiritual energy and all that type of stuff. All those mummies and stuff you find and you excavate. Stop lying. These are us. So to have the audacity to try to cancel Kevin Hart from what's it called, from about telling the truth about his people, telling the truth about the ancient Egyptians are his race, get out of here with that stuff. Just like the Europeans, you guys need to leave. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe.